Hello, God bless you. Here we are again, and my name is Perla Negroni, and we have been studying the bait of Satan, which is the offense. The offense is the bait that the enemy, Satan, is using to lure you and me into have animosity, create all kind of situations, and create division. And it's happening in society, it's happening all over the world. And so we have been studying this, and we are in chapter 5, and be we were been looking at how is it that David was tested into being offended with everything that Saul was doing, and how Saul was getting so focused on David and on attacking him. And so um, we touched the fact that sometimes we can find ourselves in the same situation. We need to really study what is the real reason we want to do that. When we think that we're telling the truth, when we're telling on someone, when we are exposing someone or some situation, what is the real reason behind it? Are we doing it with the right reasons? Are we doing it to avenge something? Are we doing it to gain popularity, fame? Are we what? Because what makes the difference is the reason that is pushing us or taking us to do this. The wrong heart and the wrong um, reasons can make the difference between righteousness being served or our own desires being served. Um, are we going to be people that are going to look to destroy someone, not realizing that we are destroying ourselves in the process? Or are we going to allow God judgment or mercy if he wants to? Because if people repent, God will actually apply mercy. And so, are we going to allow that, God's judgment or God's mercy, to take place? Or we are the ones deciding, no, this is what is going to take place? Because it's time we think about those things. Um, we can ask ourselves, how can God use corrupt leaders? Many people ask themselves this question. Why does God put people under leaders who make serious mistakes, and even some who are wicked? Because it happened. We have seen it. Let's look at the childhood of Samuel. In 1 Samuel chapter 2, verse 5, God, not the devil, God was the one that put this young man under the authority of a priest that have corruption under his, leadership. Eli have two wicked sons. The Bible said that his sons were priests as well, and they were wicked. And Eli did nothing to stop them or to make corrections or to, you know, be some sort of a stumbling stone for them, because they were corrupted. They were wicked. But Eli himself was corrupted in the fact that he was supportive of his children's regardless. Listen, you and I need to be supportive, and this is something that we need to understand. Supportive of a person do not mean supportive of their lifestyle. Supportive of a person doesn't mean that you need to be supportive of their wicked ways or their corrupted ways. Um, in love, you can let a loved one, I love you, and you can count on me as your mother, as your father, as your aunt, your sister, your brother, as your leader. but you as an individual. Now, your actions and your lifestyle don't count on me on that area because that is not something I can support. I need to stand firm on what is right and what is, righteous. And Eli didn't do that. Um, I have heard someone at one point telling her son, "You're my son and I love you. And no matter what you do, I don't care if you kill someone right in front of me, I will still love you and I will still have your back." And I was like, love has absolutely nothing to do with how that son behaved. You shouldn't even mention it. It's like love is a given, no matter what. I will still love you, no matter what. But if you do something that is wrong, I'm not gonna support the action. I still gonna support my son. I still gonna be there to, embrace you and cry with you and probably at the same time said, what in the world were you thinking? But I have to let justice prevail regardless. And so I was like very shocked when I saw this happening, when I heard that, because I'm thinking people are so confused, so confused. Um, so these men were wicked, Eli's sons, and they took offerings, manipulate by manipulating people. They also did it by force. Um, they committed fornication with women who assembled it at the door of the tabernacle. Um, I mean, imagine you're serving um, a minister that is living this kind of life, a minister who is insensitive to the things of the spirit, that he couldn't even recognize a woman in prayer and accuse her of being drunk, so fleshly that he was totally. There was a person, Eli was a person that even in the way he looked, he was excessively, grossly overweight. What I'm saying is, it was not common for the priest uh, to be like that. They were a little bit more fit, and no Eli. Um, he was sedentary and he was not even doing his fulfilling his duties to 100% as a priest. And um, he he did nothing about his sons, even though he knew, everybody knew. He appointed them as leaders, as a matter of fact, and they were even committing fornication right in the church, and he didn't have a problem with that. So many Christians will be definitely offended and searching a different church, telling others, about the wicked life that Eli's sons were, lifestyle that Eli's sons were having, or oh my God, you don't want to know about my pastor. Oh, but you don't have an idea, my pastor this or my pastor that or my leader this. I'm leaving, I'm going to I cannot be in the midst of such corruption. But that was not the way Samuel was. Samuel was different. You look in 1 Samuel 3:1, And it says, now the boy Samuel ministered to the Lord before Eli. It was unbelievable, but this boy at one point or another, or young fellow at one point or another, started noticing what was taking place. But he just continued to be focused because he was not serving Eli. He was serving the Lord. He was serving Eli up to a certain extent under the the fact that serving the Lord, he will assist Eli, but he was clear on who he was serving. And at one point, the word of the Lord was rare, wasn't happening. There was no revelation happening at that time. And you find that in 1 Samuel 3:1. And God was kind of distant. Um, the Hebrew community was not really receiving like they were supposed to. Um, did you or I at any point find Samuel telling his mom or anyone, listen, I need to go to a different place. I cannot serve here anymore. Did he started talking to other people and exposing his elders and the wickedness of Eli's sons? Or he formed a committee and tried to put Eli and his sons out of the ministry? No, he continued to minister to the Lord. And God put him there, and he was not responsible for the behavior of Eli's and his sons because he was not there, he was not put there under them um, to judge them in if they were doing right or wrong, but to serve them, to assist them. And so he knew Eli was God's servant, not his servant. Somehow Samuel understood this, and that God was capable, quite capable, to dealing with his people. Children are not the ones to be correcting the fathers. It's the duty of the fathers to train and correct the children. And I'm saying that a child cannot say, Mom, why are you doing that? No, that's not what I'm saying. It's that it's not their duty. It's not their responsibility. It's the parents' responsibility to be the one correcting the child. It's the parents' duty to correct the child, not the other way around. That every now and then needs to happen the other way around. That's a total different thing. But it's not the duty, it's not the responsibility. And Samuel understood that in this case, he needed to weigh on the Lord's guidance. He was not going to jump the gun. And so the Lord is giving us people under us to train, to, you know, make disciples out of them, not our disciples, but disciples of the Lord. And that people we need to confront, that people we need to deal with, because we are training them, or they are being receiving discipleship from us, because they are somehow our responsibility. And we are, and I encourage you, and you know I hope that you and I can encourage and exhort brothers and sisters in Christ, to do better and to serve the Lord. I'm not saying not to point at sin. Please do not take things out of context. I'm not saying that if you see sin, you need to look the other way. Samuel was not looking the other way. He was just waiting on the Lord to do what was right at the right moment. And sometimes that should be our place. We're going to find that how we deal and how we respond to those in authority over us can actually make a big difference in how the Lord is going to move us and use us. Samuel served God's appointed minister the best that he could without the pressure to judge him or correct him. The only time that he did it was because a word of correction was given to him. Um, and Eli himself came and told Samuel, hey, um, what prophecy God have given you last night when Samuel keep hearing the voice of the Lord calling him, but he wasn't sure. He was thinking was Eli, and he kept going to Eli, and Eli would send him to sleep because he was so disconnected he didn't get that it was the Lord. And at one point, then he finally got it, and he was like, "Oh, you know what? Go to bed, and when you hear it again, you say to the Lord, speak. Your servant is listening." And he knew, Eli knew that much, that if the Lord was gonna give a word to Samuel, then if the Lord is calling for Samuel, it's because he's gonna talk to him and give him a word. And the next morning he was like, "Okay, so what is it that the Lord told you? What is it's not even that Samuel went to him and say, "Hey, I need to talk to you." Last night, no, it didn't work that way. Eli asked him, and Samuel said, "Well, now that you're asking, this is the word that I received." And it was totally from God, not from Samuel. You see the difference? So if more people can understand this, the churches will work differently, because people will understand that before they open their mouth and they do anything, they need to make sure that the Lord is in the midst of it and not their own feelings, ideas, or ego. Churches aren't cafeterias. Churches are not a cafeteria, okay? Man and woman today, they leave churches the moment they see that something is wrong in leadership. Instead of trying to work, perhaps is the way the pastor take the offering. Maybe it's the way the money is spent. Maybe they don't like what is being preached, or the pastor is not approachable, or he's too familiar. This list will never end. Or his children are this, or they don't have an idea what's going on behind doors. This is what is funny. People go to church and sit down for an hour or two, maybe three, and if they go once a week, we're talking that from just that little time, they conclude that they have the whole picture on what is taking place in the pastor's life, in the leader's life, and in their children's life. They see or hear something, and immediately they make conclusions. I smile when I see people convinced that they are good judge, of characters, and they are way off, way off. Ministers and pastors, we encounter a very common thing, which is people want us to punish and call our children's attention in front of the congregation and in front of them. And if they don't see that happening, they assume it's not happening. They don't know what happened at home. They don't know what is happening behind doors. They do their own thing behind doors, but for some reason, they don't dare to think that pastors and ministers also have private lives and things happen behind doors. So, because we have to call their attention and correct them in church, and we not necessarily stand in front of the congregation and do it in front of everybody, but we do it in church by maybe calling them to the office or something. They think that because they don't see us doing that with our children, it's not happening. There are children, so we do it at home. There are children, so we do it in the car, alone with them. We are giving our children the same respect that we're giving your children and yourself. We do it in private with you. We're doing it in private with them. And somehow they don't want that. They want pastors and ministers to embarrass their children and to mistreat their children. I'm sorry, but that's not going to happen. That is incorrect. They are people just like you, and they have the same rights that your children have. Um, they are people forget things. I have a particular case that this young lady came and have a private talk with me and told me that she wanted to sit for a while because she was clear that she committed some type of sin and she didn't feel she wanted to be singing or doing certain things. And I explained that was not the thing that we did. We believe that you repent, you are washed with the blood, and you move forward. But she insists that she feel that she needed to sit for a while and kind of take a break. And I supported that. Was not the way we handle things, but I supported it. Later on, some things happened with one of my children, and when nobody saw them sitting they sat for a little while, but not for a long time. And again, because of their own um, desire, um, I was talk behind my back in reference to this, saying that how could I sit such and such person, but not my own. And I cry because when I try to reason with the parents to let them know, hey, that's not what happened. Your daughter have a private conversation with me and she requested this. I explained that that's not the way we do things, but she insisted. So this was a request from her that I just supported because she felt she wanted to do this. Um, but that's not how we do things. They didn't want to reason, they didn't want to hear it. And I come to find out that other people behind my back were just feeding them lies and, oh, look, they did it to your daughter, but they didn't do it to theirs, and blah, 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 blah. And they just took it. So they took it to offense, the bait of Satan. They were offended by that. And, oh Lord, they never allow an explanation. They never allow nothing. It was like, no. You are not fair. And leaders go through this, pastors go through this, and many, I could sit here and tell you so many different unfair situations because people don't know the whole story. They think they do, but they don't. And they misjudge pastors and leaders and ministers. And we go through so much um, attack and backstabbing and people saying all kind of stuff behind our backs instead of coming and sitting with us and say, hey, I have a doubt, hey, I heard this, or just dismiss it, just say it's not my business, they don't serve me, they serve God, let God deal with them. So it it is difficult, and sometimes some of us say, I'm not doing this anymore because is is just difficult. And some of us have fallen, sadly, on this bait of Satan being the offense. And then we don't want to deal with certain situations or people because now we're offended and we feel enough. I mean, this is not fair. So it is hard, it's difficult. And Eli could have gone through so much, even though what in his case was true. Um, Samuel could have done many things. He could have gone different routes, but he didn't. Um, he decided that he was going to face the difficulties at the moment and maintain the hope. And some people prefer just to run to where appears to be no conflict. And the truth is, it's always easy um, when appears to be no conflict. But I can assure you that there's no couple without disagreements, and there is no family without conflicts. This is something that always exists. For some people are in higher scale, others in a lower scale, but we all have these issues, and the least that